I'm Mackayla. Welcome to the Soundtrack of Our Lives podcast. We're going to jump right into it with the hardest two questions of all. Who are you and what have you been up to recently?
Well, we are Old Neon. We've been up to making an EP, and now is the time to release that EP onto the world on May 23rd. So that's honestly, I feel like takes up most of our free time just
Mhm.
being in this band.
It is the truth. Yeah, we got. Yeah, we're from Pittsburgh, PA. We make alternative slash pop punk type music. If that's your thing, then boy golly, I got some good news for you because we got some new songs out.
I'm sure you have something to add, B.
No, you guys pretty much got it.
Oh no. Off to a bad start.
He was like, "This is B's first podcast. We've done a couple of promoting the EP, and B expressed how much they wanted to answer every single question before."
Just a true extrovert.
Yeah.
So, you guys have the new EP coming out. What are your thoughts behind the release?
Well, so far we have just the one single out at the time we're recording this, Nobody's Burden. And the reception's been pretty great at this point. Like in terms of like growth in like just people listening to it and just in things that people have said to us, like that they think it's some of our strongest stuff. And I'd say I agree. Just because all the work that we've put into it, from writing in a very collaborative way to partnering with Matt Brash from the Wonder Years, who did a fantastic job producing and engineering the record, and then Nick Steinborn, who also from the Wonder Years mixed it, and then mastered by Will Yip, and like just from start to finish, there was so much care in the recording process and everything. So yeah, I do think it's our strongest work, and I'm really happy to be putting it out and sharing it with the world.
Yeah, this very much feels like the easy part because all the work is done now, and it's just like kind of just ready to relax and play some shows and have some fun.
Mm-hmm.
Now we get to do the fun part.
What was it like kind of creating the album, writing the songs, putting it all together? What was that process like?
I think it's always a challenge because you're dealing with five people with five very different opinions on how things should sound in a given song or be even like in the band at large. And so you're always juggling sort of like your expectations with the expectations of others. And then, of course, adding a producer this time, as Drew said, Matt from the Wonder Years, then like kind of leaning on him to kind of make a lot of the sort of tiebreaker decisions and to sort of have the right suggestions as far as, well, maybe instead of going to any of these five places, maybe we go here. And it's always a challenge, but then when you get to the finish line, it's like, oh, this is like, it's the best feeling ever because not only did we emotionally survive this, but we actually have something to show for it, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a reward in and of itself.
Yeah, and like going into it, we really wanted it to feel more like a collaborative experience than it had for us maybe in the past. Because like before, like earlier in the band with our first two, like our first album and our first EP, we were mostly coming to the table with like mostly finished songs, and being like, "Hey, everybody, I wrote this," or like
Mm-hmm.
Sean wrote this. Let's see how we can fit everyone else into it. Where like now it was very much like from the ground up when we were making these songs, it was like everyone sort of had a hand in making the thing. So like Nobody's Burden started out as an instrumental that B sent to us, and it was pretty fleshed out, and B was like, go crazy, like see what you can write to it. And it was just really inspiring to me. Like when I'm writing, I tend to just put the track on and put just do nonsense gibberish words, and like whatever comes out like usually ends up being the melody and like sort of guiding what the words are gonna be. So like yeah, it just like sort of came out from the instrumental. And actually I had a question for you, B. Like what was your process like making that? Like where did the riff come from? Like where did that whole thing start for you?
So when I was originally writing that song, I had like lyrics and a melody that I didn't like. And I got like to the I think I got like through like a first chorus essentially with it. And I was like, I just like am not feeling it. So I sort of like set it aside. And then like maybe like a year later, I sent it to you guys. And um like I just couldn't hear how a melody could work. Like the chorus, I was like, this chorus is like not gonna work, like it's not catchy. And then like Drew writes this melody on top of it, and it was like this is what it like needed the entire time. Um and yeah, so it became this thing that like was sort of different than anything that I could have like done entirely by myself. And that's my favorite part about like working collaboratively is that you end up with this like magic that only really happens when you have like um different people's creative voices. Yeah. So yeah, I think I also had a different riff that started the song that was the riff for a long time. And then Sean had been like complaining at practice, and he was like he was like, oh, this riff, it's generic, like it's not good. And I was getting pissed off at him because I was like, oh, Sean criticizing my riffs again. But then like a week before he went to the studio, I was like, you know what? Like I'm just gonna like mess around with this and see like if I can make it better. And then I like landed on the one that is the one in the final version. And when I showed everyone, they were like, yeah, that's it. So I needed a little push from Sean. Thank you, Sean.
You're so welcome. See, you all think I'm a jerk, but there is a method to the madness, it seems. I'm just making you all great, making you all better. My criticisms of Zach are completely warranted at all times.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think there is truth to that though, because it's like if we can get something that's like good enough for all five of us to agree, like, oh, this rules, like, it ends up being better than anything that just one of us could have come up with.
Zach, do you agree that you are pro me bullying you?
Man, what a tough question. Because if I say yes, I enable the bullying, but if I say no, I then bring on more bullying. Classic catch-22 scenario.
A true conundrum. It's not going to answer.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna decline.
All right, next
again.
question.
Okay.
Great job, Zach.
So the next question is, how do you balance all five voices and making sure that everyone feels heard?
It's a lot of fighting and kind of infighting and side taking and then more fighting. But then I think the magic happens when you kind of like find the common ground and you're able to kind of like carry something through like what was a sort of tumultuous beginning, like for instance B's riff that I thought was generic, but then like B went home and practiced like crazy, and then we got something better out of it. And I think that is like, I don't know, I think the fighting is part of it and necessary for most bands to some degree, as long as it's like not abusive or manipulative. But then being able to kind of through that passionately lobby for your take and your ideas to be heard
Mhm.
while having enough grace to accept the outcome, I think is like the biggest thing.
Hmm. Yeah. A big thing for me was like knowing that my personal taste is not necessarily like correct. And as long as we all sort of approach it from that thing, that place, while still trying to make something that we think is cool, um, I think that's a recipe for success. Another thing that uh, that we that that we try to do is like whenever we're at a fork in the road with like a decision, like, hey, should this part sound like this or like something else? It's just like trying stuff in
Mhm.
the room together, and it's like we could talk about it all night and like see, uh, how theoretically something should feel, but like let's just play it, see how it feels, and yeah, most of the time that solves issues like that.
And it's
Um,
always like a diplomacy wins thing, right? So it's oftentimes the majority rules, and there are times in the process where you're kind of like a figure in the film Lincoln, where you're like trying to lobby for votes and like grease the right wheels to make sure that the correct, or like in your mind, the correct idea gets out there. But then there are times with, and I know Drew will relate to this because it happened on this, where there was a song that was pretty divisive going in, and I feel like, to Drew's earlier point, like I kind of had to throw my hands up and be like, okay, well, I don't know necessarily everything about music, and like maybe, in this case, Drew like knows something that I don't.
Mhm.
And I've heard nothing. Like, for instance, there's a song that happened with on this particular EP, and we've gotten so many compliments on the song itself that it kind of fulfilled that sort of like checkbox in my mind, where I was like, oh no, Drew was right in this case, because he definitely
well,
heard
clip
something that
it,
I didn't hear.
clip it.
In this
Chat.
case, I specifically
Chat.
said this one time. This one time, Drew.
No, I got what I needed. I got what I needed. Thank you very much, Sean.
You're so welcome.
No, like, so that song that we're talking about is People Pleaser from the EP, and like I had written an earlier version of it around the time we were finishing up the last EP, and just for a variety of reasons it didn't resonate with everybody in the band, and it was like, okay, let's shelve this for a little bit. And then when we were going into the process to like pick the next batch of songs, we had a good like 10 songs that were complete or like near complete, and we were like, let's just pick the 5 that we know we're going to be able to go in and finish up in the studio, and we think are going to be worth the time and the effort. So and that would like fit this new project.
Mhm.
So we made a little ranking system, and it was like you can rank all these songs, give it a number between 1 and 5 or 0 and 5
Out of all the demos we had, which were many.
Right. And then the ones with the highest scores would be the ones that we would work on and try to get to the studio. So like everyone gave People Pleaser like a 1 or a 0, and I was just like, well, I probably this song probably won't get done, but I'll just give it a 5 just to keep it alive, just to be like, even though maybe I don't feel like it is like the greatest thing we've ever done, I'm just like, just to keep
I
it
think
in the
your
conversation.
note even said, I'm just trying to keep this song alive.
Pretty much, yeah. But yeah, then we did end up revisiting it just kind of barely and doing some tweaks to it, like rewriting the lyrics, and that allowed other members to sort of get more hands-on with the song.
I also think you have to be able to like hear people out, and like Drew was fighting for the song so hard that eventually I was just like, okay, well, this is what makes me think that he has like a beat on this song that I don't have. And I think that itself is worth fighting for, because like if Drew really believes in it this much, then like we should have his back basically. And I think that is more or less, other than the lyric rewrite, that's like how it kind of came to be. And we've gotten really good feedback on it so far. I mean, the last person we talked to in a similar like Zoom meeting setting, that was like their favorite song on the EP. So that was, you know, I think probably very fulfilling for Drew to hear, and certainly in some way even for me
It
to
was
hear.
more
Because,
fulfilling for you to say that I was right a few minutes ago.
well,
Yeah.
enjoy it while it
Yeah,
lasts.
it worked out.
Yeah, I feel like one of my favorite things about the EP, like listening to it all the way through, I feel like I hear all five of our like voices in there. Like I can pick things out that I'm like, that's Drew, or that's, Sean. And like it isn't even necessarily just like the part that that person is playing, but just like the sort of vibe of a section, or the way something sounds or feels, or the tones that we used.
Mhm.
Like it really feels like a tapestry of the five of us, in a way that I yeah, I think going into it, I think, I don't know if I can speak for all of us, but I definitely had some doubts going into it, like how can we make this work, how can we get, all because we all care about this so much and feel so strongly, and that sort of lends itself to having very strong opinions about things. So it's like, how can we have all of our five really strong held opinions, like how can we like bring this together into one thing. And I feel like we did, which to me, like that was like the goal with this, on like a creative project sense. So yeah.
Yeah, I think going into the recording, there were definitely, we had gone through like this really tumultuous time, and there was definitely a feeling of like, is this going to just blow up again? And is there going to be like a problem that we can't overcome?
Mhm.
Or will we just be able to kind of like maneuver through this situation and survive? And I think one of the things that we really learned is that we really can, in spite of like tremendous differences between all of us as people, that we are actually able to kind of juggle all of that and keep all the plates spinning and keep everybody, you know, in a positive headspace. Probably more than anything else we learned during this. And we learned a lot because, when you go in to work with someone who's made records on a professional level, you can't help but learn just from
Mhm.
watching their process. But I think the number one thing that we all walked away with is like a renewed sense of like togetherness almost, or like a sense of um, synergy sounds like such a corporate term, but like a sense of like, like we're in this together and we're fighting for each other.
Mhm.
So that's
Yeah.
what do you think, Zach?
I agree.
Great job. Next question.
No, no, like I mean, the other three really did kind of say everything there was to say. Yeah, I mean, I think that for sure the number one thing for me about like making this EP and going through some internal stuff, and then going and making the thing, which was like really hard in and of itself. Like every day was a 12-hour day at least. Um, so like us being able to come together um, in the way that we did, and be in the same room and in close quarters, and like go through like some tough decisions in the room as well, as far as like, okay, well, where does this song need to go from here, because there were a lot of like last minute changes that happened that I don't think any of us were anticipating. um so acknowledging that we're all coming from different angles as far as maybe what we want for the song, but being able to commit in like a pretty effective way and move forward and get the thing done. I don't know, like showed me, like Sean said, that like yeah, there is a sense of togetherness and stick to itiveness, if you will, that um, I don't think we knew that we had before because we hadn't been in the situation. You know, prior to, we were just making things, kind of making songs like one at a time at our own pace. You know, I would go and do drums with a guy named Evan Yester, who's been so great to us, and he's such good people. But I would go track drums with him, and then, you know, Mike might track some of the leads. You know, next week Drew would track the vocals. A week after that, rhythm guitar from at one point in time it was Sean, and then at another point in time it was B. It would be like very piecemeal. And so it was like our first time having to do all of that at once, no breaks, nonstop. Excuse me, nonstop. And to be able to do that, just I think we proved a lot to ourselves.
I'm glad you were able to pull through that time.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I think it was just a lot of pressure combined by like everyone just living their personal lives. And I think it just came to a head, you know, one weekend. And then it was for a while after that, even though we had kind of like talked through it, it was still like, okay, well, like, do we want to keep doing this? Does anyone like each other still at all? Can anyone keep, like, especially for me, like, can I keep from feeling, I get like extremely passionate and my heels dug in about almost every tiny decision, because I started the band and it's like my baby in so many ways, even though it's everyone's baby. You know, I was there when it was like me paying rent on a practice space just to try people out for 6 months by myself. So it's like, you know, my kind of like ownership of it, I think even like in my own head is extreme sometimes, on top of the fact that like just naturally I inherently care about every little speck of a creative decision that happens. And I think that like that can sometimes manifest in like just a very like an initial reaction followed by like a while later like the correct reaction, if that makes sense. You know, there's like the initial like, you know, no, I'm not doing this, fuck you, I won't budge. And then later when I've calmed down, it's like, okay, let's get back to the table and negotiate this decision like adults. And so for a while, like going to Philly, I was like, is this going to be just the death of us? Because we're going to have to be on top of each other for 10 days and working, you know, Zach says 12-hour days, but B had like 2 13 or 14-hour days when they were
Fueled by
tracking.
Wawa mac and cheese.
Yeah, and we were
nothing else.
Right. And we were literally eating trash and just
hey, no. Hold up. Wawa mac and cheese is delicious and nutritious.
I know that there's been a lot of debate about the level of trash, but like we were eating objectively, we were eating mac and cheese from a convenience store. And then having to like, you know, have this be like the culmination of everything we've done, not even knowing like, you know, day one, like, are we all like kind of cool yet? Like it had been, I think, 2 or 3 weeks since we had like our big blowout, and like, is everybody cool now? Or like, is everyone pretending to be cool to keep the peace? Is everybody hiding feelings? Who knows? And then to be able to come through that and be like, oh no, like we're really fighting for each other in this room. So that feels really nice.
Yeah, I think I personally walked away from the experience as difficult, as challenging as it was, just in terms of like the amount of work that we were doing. It was like very rewarding. So like at the end of that first week, we had 4 songs completely done. I
forgot we went back.
this like oh yeah, we finished the last one like a few months later. But we did 4 out of the 5 in this first week, and I think I kind of walked away from it like with a renewed sense of why I'm sort of like doing this. Like I think sometimes like when things are challenging, you know, I find myself saying like, why am I putting so much into this? You know, like we all have day jobs.
Hmm.
And so sometimes like when it's hard, it's like, you know, like what am I doing this for? And I think I walked away from that experience of that week being like that, yeah, this is like why I'm doing this, and you know, I want to keep doing it. And so honestly, like I think that that experience in a way was part of what kind of saved us in that period of uncertainty, um, because of how successful the experience was.
How do you guys balance having day jobs with being part of a band?
I've been lucky in that haven't gone to work since COVID like 19 first started in like March
Hmm.
2019 or whatever, since like everybody initially left work. And
Like physically left, like you're not going into the office.
correct.
You
Like
don't not have a job. Yeah.
yeah. No. And then um they had basically, as long after that happened, I used to have like a very gung ho boss who would like, if you weren't, update, if Oracle wasn't updating like every 5 minutes, she would literally call you and be like, "Hey, I noticed you haven't done anything in a couple minutes. Are you okay?" Like she would ask the stupid like, "Are you okay?" question,
Hmm.
as though like, but it was an accusation, obviously.
Right.
And then I got shifted over to a boss like probably a month or two into um work from home, who was like the total opposite, and she was like, "Yeah, as long as your work is done, like whatever." um and I would start to basically work on band stuff during work, and like still getting
Yeah.
everything done correctly and successfully, but it definitely gave me like a sort of ability to be able to functionally complete my job correctly, but also have a little more time to focus on the logistics and stuff
Hmm.
of being in a band. And Drew, I think, is in a kind of similar, because Drew's a 1099, so he's kind of in a similar situation where he kind of works whenever the work is there if he
Yeah.
wants
I mean,
to.
like, well, yeah, my career is a little weird just because like um I'm like a full-time musician slash sound engineer.
Hmm.
So a lot of my stuff like can directly uh like be happening at the same time as potentially an old neon thing. So it's just a lot of like planning ahead. So like um I have to pretty much know my schedule like 3-4 months out in advance and just like kind of plan around it.
I know for me, it's been so difficult at times. Because I mean, just I'm a therapist in my day job, and prior to December, I was working in like a small community mental health agency. It was long term treatment for adults with severe substance use disorders, and I was in like a lead supervisory role there from 2022 to when I left last year in November of 2024. So, yeah, very good, Sean. Well done. Um, and yeah, I mean, my role was just very high stress, and there was a lot of unpaid overtime, and I was always on call. And so at times it was very, very difficult to balance because it was like the only things that I would do would be work and band. I
Hmm.
would have like a long shift at work and come home and then do whatever band, practice, or, if we had practice, just whatever. And so I how I've balanced it now, or at least tried to balance it, was by changing jobs, in the sense I'm still a therapist, but I've moved to private practice, which allows for just so much more peace of mind and freedom with my time, and the ability to like fit this stuff in a way that is at least a little healthier.
Hmm.
Being in a local level pop punk band is inherently unhealthy, and I wouldn't recommend
Yeah.
anyone do it. Uh, but having at least a little bit of a work-life balance allows for that part of one's life to be a little bit more fulfilling, and to be able to engage in it in a way that is more fulfilling. Um, but yeah, it was tough for a long time. It still is tough because it's been a rough start to that private practice transition, but it's gonna get better soon.
Yeah, I also my job is like very I work in like academia in like a research type role.
Hmm.
Also primarily work from home. So I have a lot of flexibility with um, being able to kind of like Sean was talking about, just more flexibility in that kind of job, which lends itself nicely to band stuff. I've definitely had to make some like tough decisions with my career, and like I wanted to go back to school and get my master's. And I realized that there was no way that I was going to be able to go to school online, work a full-time job, and also be in a band that is
Hmm.
serious.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, one of those things has to go, and it's not going to be the band, and it's not going to be my job because I have to pay my rent. Uh,
Hmm.
so I've kind of prioritized. I try to like keep a balance with
Yeah.
like I definitely prioritize this. But yeah, it's a balancing act because there's only so many hours in the day. But
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, you could get your master's later on.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, I have forever to do
Right.
that. But you're only in a local pop punk band once. Actually, that's not true. I've been in a lot of local pop
Especially
punk
not for
bands.
you, dude.
So, before I ask our last question, was there anything else that you guys wanted to mention or talk about today?
I don't think so. Check out the EP when it comes out May 23rd. All of our social handles are just Old Neon Music. I think that's it, right? I mean, that's the main kind of thing.
Pretty much, yeah. Coming to a city near you if you live around Pittsburgh.
Or Kentucky.
Or Kentucky or
Let's
Ohio
go.
or New York. And that's about it, right? Those are our 4 states that we're working on right now.
Lansdale, Pennsylvania.
That's in PA, so that's just PA
Oh, yeah.
adjacent. PA, New York, like
If you
West
live in
Kentucky,
the
West Coast
Ohio.
state,
tour next year.
If you live in the Northeast, we're gonna figure it out at some point.
if you live
Awesome.
in the state of Philadelphia, we are coming to you.
Okay. So, the last question is, what is the soundtrack of your life?
Oh, it's such a
Um,
broad question, and I believe it's
yeah,
done intentionally.
Oh, and totally intentionally.
I think the soundtrack of my life is, this like what we're doing together. Um, a lot of memes from Zach that I don't want. Um, the sound of my cat in the middle of the night, just like somehow conjuring the loudest sound out of like a seemingly uh minute space and or object.
Hmm.
And my partner making little ghost figurines to sell at markets, and whatever show we're watching basically is the soundtrack to my life. And a lot of um you know the bands that we all grew up on, like Fall Out Boy and the Wonder Years, and uh everything in between, I think. So that's pretty much that's my life soundtrack.
I like it.
The soundtrack to my life is a little more literal. I call it the Guy Pod Shuffle. It's the iPod Shuffle that lives inside my head. It's really cool because it's free music, but it sucks because it never stops and you don't get to pick the song. So like sometimes it's really good, but other times it's not. So like right now I'd say it's pretty good because I got
Smooth by Santana.
Well, now I have Smooth by Santana. I was gonna
That's
say,
the thing, is that it can be influenced by
now,
whoever you're speaking
yeah. Well,
of.
now I have two going on at the same time. That's chaotic, dude. So like, no, I was gonna say I have Still in My Way by The Story So Far on this side of my brain, and now I got the drums from dun 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 dun, Smooth by Santana. Thank you very much for that. But yeah, that is literally the soundtrack to my life, the Guy Pod Shuffle.
I would say the soundtrack to my life.
You look like a movie villain right now, stroking the cat.
He is kind of the. I think we would all agree he is the villain of the band.
You know, it was funny.
Well, Drew, do you have something to say?
I was gonna say, thank God you gave Sean that ammunition, and then Sean just beat me to it entirely. Yeah, I was gonna go more literal, but then Sean had a nice abstract answer, so I think I'm gonna be able to do a little abstract and literal. I would say that the soundtrack to my life is this little guy, also making insane noises. He likes to open up drawers. He's able to jump places where you wouldn't think he'd be able to jump, and it always happens very loudly when he does that.
Yeah, it's crazy how much noise those little guys can generate.
Yeah. He's insane, but I love him so very much. So that's part one of the soundtrack to my life. I would say also part two would be, I guess I'm known, I've been described in the past as being a bit of an NPC because I have a lot of catchphrases that I'll rattle off without any context, without them entirely making sense. But I've had the same few lines that I've been leaning on for years. And any one of those is just ready to fire at any point in time. And so it is kind of playing like a soundtrack in my brain all the time, just my series of catchphrases.
What's your catchphrase right now? Like, what are you on right now?
They haven't changed.
It's probably going to be "My name is Zach."
Yeah,
my name is Zach.
That's
yeah,
a mainstay.
My name is Zach. Yeah.
Fortnite.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah. No one said anything ending in ER yet, so I can't say I hardly know her. Yeah, silly things like that. The theme song to Community, because I love that show so much. I've watched it 5 times through. Drew hates it, and I think he is stupid. And the soundtrack to The Greasy Strangler. It's also a source of one-liners and bits. And I think that... Oh, and then 4 Years Strong. And that would be it.
Okay.
The soundtrack to
Well, you got to save this somehow.
well, I was gonna say the soundtrack to my life is also Zach's bits.
Oh,
And-
sure, yeah.
And like whatever is in our Discord at any given time, because there's always something. It's a 24 hours a day.
Totally unhinged, yeah.
Also, I have 2 cats as well. I locked them out for this because whenever they hear me talking on Zoom, they like want to come over and like stand on my keyboard. So they're not here right now, but yeah. And recently I've been watching Severance, and that theme song is like really awesome. I watched this YouTube video breakdown about it, so I've been hearing that a lot. And yeah, I think that's it.
Awesome.
What's
So-
your soundtrack to your life, Michaela?
It's probably the theme song for The Office.
Okay, gotcha. Sure.
Because
Popular, yeah.
honestly, I listen to The Office to fall asleep at night.
Oh, sure. It is kind of one of those shows
Yeah.
because it's very episodic.
I don't know how many times I've seen the whole thing through. Like from start to finish, it's way too many to count.
I gotcha. Well, do you actually see it or are you sleeping through it?
Both.
Okay, I gotcha.
Both.
Cool.
It enters
'Cause it's
by
like-
osmosis.
Yeah, it's also like the one show that my family of 6 people will all watch. So like whenever we can't decide what to watch, it's like, let's just watch The Office.
Yeah.
So
I bet that is a very common family experience because it is a show that kind of goes down easy, you know.
I feel like a lot of families have that like one show.
I used to when I was in school, I had a teacher that was in like a I don't even know how I would qualify the band, but they opened every set with the Office theme song. And then I had him I think I heard like that whole like I think I was witness to his entire life before he was like one of my professors. And then it was like very hard to take him seriously after that. And it became like a real complication because I don't want to say talk down to him, but I feel like I would not take him seriously because I knew too much about his life and it became very hard to pass his class, but I got through it.
So for all of our listeners who want to stay updated on you guys, potentially see you when they come to a city near them, where can they find you?
At Old Neon Music on Instagram or any of the socials. We're probably there, but basically Instagram for updates and such.
Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Yeah, thank you for
Yeah,
making
thanks
the
for
time.
having us.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for letting us turn your show into group therapy.
Well, have a good rest of your night.
You as well. Thank you.